Welcome back to another Listening to Reading. Today we're continuing on with the Boxcar Children, The Yellow House Mystery by Gertrude Chandler Warner. Now, some of you may be wondering, why in the world am I wearing a Jungle Cruise shirt? Well, that's in honor of my brother. My brother, for the last 10 years, has been working part-time at Walt Disney World as a Jungle Cruise skipper. Unfortunately, because of the COVID and all that stuff, he's ended up, his last day was just a couple of days ago. So he's no longer working there anymore, and he's pretty sad about it. But I wanted to honor him, respect him, because of wearing my Jungle Cruise shirt, although this says Disneyland and he works at Disney World. But anyway, let's get back to the book. Chapter 14, The Hermit. Let's find out. How about that $10? How about that money? Let's ask the hermit. Chapter 14, The Hermit. Right away, the children wanted to go and see Rita again. Leaving the money in the $10 in the kitchen cupboard, the whole family almost ran up the road. "We want to go into the woods again, Rita," Jessie called. "We want to talk with Dave Hunter. Do you think we could find our way alone?" "Of course you can, but Dave won't talk." "Maybe he will talk to Benny," said Jessie. "Well, maybe," said Rita. "He did before." The family started down the path through the woods. When they came to the cabin, they saw the hermit walking toward his house with a pail of water. He stopped when he saw the visitors. Then he went right on again. "Dave," called Henry kindly, but the hermit started to go up the steps to his cabin. Then Bill called out in his loudest voice, "Bill!" The pail went rolling down the steps as the old man stopped. He sat down and put his head in his hands. But Benny seemed to know just what to do, and nobody stopped him. He ran over and sat down beside the old man and put his hand on his arm. "Oh, Bill, don't worry. We've come to take you home." "Home?" said Bill. He lifted his head and looked at Benny. "I can never go home, little boy." He looked at the others as they waited on the path. "Oh, yes, you can, Bill," cried Benny. "Grandfather wants you to come home, and so does Mrs. McGregor." "Mrs. McGregor," said Bill in a whisper. Then nobody could believe what happened next. Violet went quickly over to the steps and took the old man's hands. "He means Margaret," she said. He looked down at the pretty little girl. "Margaret is dead," said Bill. "No, Margaret's alive," said Violet. "They told me she was dead," said Bill. "They said there was a fire and the barn burned and Margaret died trying to save the horses." "Oh, that isn't true at all, Bill," cried Benny. "We lived in that barn all summer, and Mrs. McGregor and the housekeeper is the housekeeper at my grandfather's house." "I can't go home. I can't find the money. I took Mr. Alden's money," Violet said gently. "We found the money." "Where?" "In a $10 under the steps of the house." "In a $10. That's right. Oh, dear. Oh, dear." Then Joe came up the steps. "Mr. McGregor, everything will be all right again. Believe me, your wife is alive and wants to see you so badly. We just found the money today." Then he turned to the children. "I'm afraid Bill is getting very tired. He's having too much excitement after 40 years. Do you think you can walk to Old Village, Mr. McGregor?" The old man looked at Joe's kind face. "Yes, I can, if all this story that you say is true." "I promise you that it is," said Joe. Then he said to the children, "Don't ask him anything more until we get home." But he is Bill, all right. But he would not let go of Bill's hand. He led him carefully along the path, stopping to show him every stone. "I've seen every stone on this path for many years, little boy," but they all knew that he liked to have Benny help him anyway. They took him to the little house that he had built himself. Alice made him lay down on the cot, and Jessie put something soft under his head. And Joe rushed over to Jim's place and soon came back with a cup of hot tea. "Drink this. It will make you feel better." Bill drank the tea, and before anyone knew it, he had fallen asleep. "He is tired out," said Violet in a whisper, "and he's so thin. He looks as if he didn't have anything to eat, almost like he's starving. We'll soon fix that, whispered Jessie with a smile. He'll have enough to eat if he lives with us. The family went into the kitchen, and they shut the door softly. Won't Grandpa be surprised, said Henry. And Mrs. McGregor, said Violet. I'm surprised myself, said Joe. Honestly, I thought Bill was dead. For sure. Jessie said, wasn't it strange how Benny got him to talk all of a sudden? Just because he called him Bill? Bill must have felt funny to be talking after 40 years, said Benny. I couldn't stop talking for 40 years, and everyone laughed. I hope you won't, Benny, laughed Alice. We love to hear you talk. When Bill wakes up, we must give him something to eat, said Jessie. I think I'll run over to Jim's place and see what he has. Let me go with you, said Alice. We can go out the back door. The two girls went across the road and found Jim in the kitchen stirring something on the back of a stove. It was soup, and it smelled delicious. Jim turned around quickly and asked, wasn't that the hermit I saw you with? Yes, it was, said Jessie. His real name is Bill McGregor, and he used to work for our great-grandfather. I thought something was strange about him. People used to say that little house was Bill McGregor's place. Then one day Dave Hunter came to Old Village and said it was his. He said he was a cousin of Bill's, but he wouldn't live in the house. He told me to use it for campers, and he built it himself, his cabin. Well, said Alice, he says he is Bill McGregor now. He talks, does he? Asked Jim. I can hardly believe it. It must seem strange. He's a nice, gentle old man. I always felt kind of sorry for him. I always tried to feed him up when he came out of the woods. That's what we came for, said Jessie. Something to feed him. That hot soup would be just the thing. Jessie, Benny called from across the road. Bill's awake and he's hungry. Take some bread and butter too, said Jim with a laugh. That'll do him good. Alice and Jessie hurried back, and Bill was sitting up in a chair. He looked much rested. Jessie put a little table in front of him and set down the hot soup and a plate of bread and butter. Bill ate as if he were half starved. You don't look as thin as you did, Bill, said Benny. You look a little bit fatter. Everyone laughed, even Bill himself. I don't think he grew very fat on one bowl of soup, said Jessie. But you do look better, Bill. Sure enough. I feel better, said the old man, looking into the girl's kind face. Here's a picture of him. Look how long that beard is. How many years do you think it would take to grow a beard that long? Wow. Then he looked around at the other friendly faces. They were all smiling at him. I suppose Mrs. McGregor won't know you, said Benny. I will know her, said Bill, even if she's old. She might like you better without your long beard, said Benny. Shh, Benny, said Jessie. But Bill's feelings were not hurt at all. He even laughed a little bit. My beard can be cut off, he said. Then I will look like Bill McGregor instead of an old hermit. Jessie, said Benny all of a sudden, where'd you get that soup? I'm awfully hungry. What do you know, cried Henry. It's long past noon, and we are so excited we forgot our own dinner. Don't worry, said Jessie, getting up at once. We'll soon fix that. And that's the end of chapter 14. Chapter 15 is a chapter I'm sure you're looking forward to. It's called Starting for Home. Always, after a long trip, even though you've had a great time, it's always good to start back home, back to your family. I have a wonderful family, too. Anyway, until next time, keep reading. Thanks for joining me today.